Good morning, everybody. Hope you're doing well. It's Halo Spencer from London. Really happy to be with you today. This is just so that you know, just so that I can share this information with you. It's the 21st of August, 2026, and it's actually just gone 8 o'clock in the morning here. So what I wanted to share was this is the earliest stream that I've ever done so far. So for me, that's an achievement, to be totally honest. So I'm really happy to join you today for a live Bible reading and reflection on Leviticus chapters 13 to 16. We're really working our way through the first 5 books of the Bible. So the objective is to get this done by the end of the year. And I don't want the last show of the year to be one of the 5 books. So we're going to finish it before the year runs out. But I'm hoping to be able to broadcast you on the 31st of December into the new year, just as I did last year. If you haven't watched that show, please go to my YouTube channel or even Rumble and watch it. It's, for me, it's a show that I reflect on. And anytime I listen to it, it does bring a smile to my face. So I would also like to bring a smile to your face as well. Because the most important thing there's a call for action. And, it's a good show. So actually what I'm going to do, I'm going to put that right on top of my show. So if anybody logs on to my YouTube or Rumble accounts, they're just copies of each other, just to spread the word. I've applied a kind of like a scattergun approach. So like the more platforms I'm assuming that I use, the more likelihood that I'll be able to reach people. So I'm actually on Twitch, as you know, which is my favorite channel, YouTube, Rumble, and Odyssey. So I live stream to Twitch, Rumble, and YouTube, and I then post my live streams to Odyssey. So that's I do sort of like use the live streams and maybe do a short here or a short there. I do have two shorts. They're both on YouTube and they're on Rumble as well. So go onto those channels and watch some more. And if you've missed a show, if you're watching me on Twitch now, and oh my word, I have 2 viewers. I always like to welcome my viewers. Always like to welcome them. Always do. So that's for you guys. I love you. In a man-to-man sense, yeah? Let's just get that. It's great for me to have viewers. It really makes me happy. It really sort of like puts something on me. So I'm really happy that you've joined me on Twitch. That is great. We're going to have a great reading today. Leviticus is something that's for you, viewer, on Twitch. And we're also joined by, oh my words, I've got someone on YouTube as well. Thank you for showing me the love on YouTube. Never really get that. And oh my word, there's always somebody on Rumble. Always. I'm going to give this to my YouTube and my Rumble guys. Turn up the volume. It's beautiful. Yeah, it's all good. So, why don't we just go straight into Leviticus 13? As I said, well, I didn't say this earlier on, but you can listen to the earlier chapters on Leviticus on my YouTube channel, or even on Rumble or on Odyssey, whatever one you prefer. Odyssey, there's no adverts there, so you might just want to listen to it via Odyssey. I'm going to read the word and then we can reflect on it later if there's anything to reflect about. As I said earlier on in a previous reading with Leviticus, it's about law, it's about, the Old Testament. In my view, I think these things are relevant. There are things that we can learn from them, and we can also understand how the Israelites were living in those days and the expectations the Lord had for them and the expectations they had from the Lord, because they were officially the Lord's people. So, they knew God. They had representatives who the Lord was speaking to directly, and they knew this. Because remember when we read towards the end of Exodus, after any time Moses had met the Lord, his face lit up when he came back to the people. He was just shining. So he used to wear a covering on his face. Okay, so these people knew God. He was literally present amongst them. Okay, they had covenants with him. Okay, so it's a very special relationship. And we know that the Lord did say, through you, all nations will be blessed. All right, so that was the closeness of the relationship. One thing, though, is that today and going forward, I'm going to be reading from the World English Bible version. Previously, if you've been listening to me, I've been reading from the English Standard Version. I love that version. I think it's great. But I realized that Bible is copyrighted. All right. And I realized this last week. So they do allow you to read it, but there's restrictions. So I decided now to leave that Bible alone, that version of the Bible, which is a great version. I would recommend it if you're thinking of having, if you don't already have it and you're thinking of having a Bible, I would recommend the English Standard Version. If English is a language that you speak and understand, because it's in modern English. I also do love the King James Version, but if you're reading it out the way that I am, you want people to understand what you're saying. And you also don't want to trip up as much as one would, where I would, reading the King James Version. I have the King James Version. That was the first Bible that I read all the way through. I understand it. It's not a problem for me, but it's not something that I would want to use as a version that I would be wanting to read to people. So like I said, we're going to start reading from the World English Bible. That is available. There's no copyright on it. You can get it in PDF. You can put it on your Kindle. You can put it on your Kobo. It's excellent. I think you can even buy a paper version of it. As you might remember, I have recommended that, yes, have a digital version of the Bible for your phone, for your tablet, for your desktop, but always, always, always have a paper version. Okay, because I've had problems with digital versions in the past. I used to read the Bible in the early days, probably in the early 2010s, when I was just trying to focus and get into the Bible and into my faith. I was reading from an app, and I had serious problems with that app that resulted in me not reading the Bible again for over a decade. All right, so as I said, I'd advise you to always have a paper version. So just to say, I have a paper version of the King James Version of the Bible, of the English Standard Version. I've got a mini, those are study Bibles. I've got a mini version of the King James, like a pocket size, almost like a pocket size. All right, so those are the three Bibles that I have. I'm not a version critic. You know, get a version of the Bible in a language that you understand it. All right, if you have more than one, you can compare and contrast. Okay, don't waste time getting into arguments about what version do you read and this, that. I just you know, it's vain babblings. All right, I just wanted to tell you of my experience, just so that you don't make the same mistakes that I made in the past. That I can say they were mistakes now. So yeah, it's a great version so far that I've been reading it. It's clear, and it's a modern English translation, so I wouldn't have any real issues with it. So that's how we're going to proceed from this time going forward. So in this section of Leviticus, chapters 13 to 16, it provides detailed laws regarding physical illnesses, skin conditions, and bodily cleanness to show how God's people must remain pure in daily life. It outlines specific rituals required for a person to be cleansed, and once you're cleansed, how to restore yourself back into the community. Because sometimes with the cleansing, you'll have to sort of be away from the community while you're being cleansed, basically while you're being cured of whatever disease or infection that you have. And we will notice that when we go into the following chapters, because a big focus is about leprosy. All right, so then talk about how you come back into the community. And chapter 16 kind of culminates with the Day of Atonement, and it establishes the ultimate annual sacrifice required to wash away sins, not just for the individual, but for the entire nation. Okay, so as we know, and as we've been told, the Lord is a forgiving God. So at the time of the Israelites, these were the procedures they could take to be forgiven of their sins. Because we're human. Okay, we're open. We live in a world. We do know who the God of this world is, don't we? It's the devil, Satan. So he's always out there with his little voice speaking in our ear, but the left one. Yeah, for me, this is my left ear and this is my right. Saying stuff non-stop. Okay, so we always have to remember where we are, what we're doing, the word of God. Okay, so there's always a word of the Lord that will counter whatever Satan has to tell us. We just have to know our Bibles. It's very important. And one of the ways we know the Bible is that we read it for ourselves. We read it for understanding, not for speed. We want to read it for understanding. But once you get close to your 10 commandments, once you start to implement them in your life, and once you start to focus in that respect, you're literally there. Okay, it's very, very important that you understand and that you include the 10 commandments in your life. And you also need to reflect on the other guidances and laws that the Bible does tell us, and make it part of your everyday life. You want to make everything you say to be edifying. Yeah, because we are told in the New Testament that You defile yourself by what comes out of your mouth, not by what you put in it. Because what comes out of your mouth is coming from the heart. So when we work on what we say, it's really helpful. So you suddenly find yourself in a situation where you would have had said something negative or gotten yourself into an argument or put somebody down because you've been put down, so you want to respond in that light, you just be calm. I mean, like, don't put your face to be slapped left and right. No, you just be say to yourself, okay, well, look, I just don't like what you did, and walk away. Oh, if that's the way that you feel, I'm sorry you feel like that. Walk away, because we are told in First Peter, be quick to hear, slow to talk, and slow to anger. So don't get angry. Because one thing that I've noticed is that when I get angry, it's like a part of me kind of opens up and I start to see red. And it's like I kind of lose control and I just start to say things. I revert to the old me. That can be kind of aggressive, or kind of like, oh, I'm not going to take that. I'm going to give you exactly what you gave me. I wouldn't call that aggressive, more like an eye for an eye sort of thing. So, but once you start to introduce these things into your life, because the Bible is like a workbook. Yeah, be quick to hear. So that means you must hear everything that's going on around you. Don't say, oh, I'm not going to watch the news, or I'm not going to read the papers. No, read it, hear the news. You need to know what's going on around you. But be slow to talk and be slow to anger. Yes? So once you have those things in the back of your mind, it's very helpful, because we are manipulated by Satan in the things we say and in the things that we do. We won't know it, but we can be manipulated by him to carry out what he wants us. So if you kind of control what you're saying, nothing negative will come out from your mouth, because Satan can control us like that. Put thoughts in our head and we'll just regurgitate them. Okay? I'll tell you a story how I discovered that. But trust me when I tell you. Okay? He ain't your friend. Let me just... Yeah, he's not your friend. Okay? So, let's just roll right into Leviticus chapters 13 to 16, and let's see what it's got to say, and let's learn something for today. And what a good way to start the day with a Bible read. So chapter 13, as usual, I'm going to bring this up on the screen. And like I said, this is the World English Bible. We're no longer using the NIV for the reasons that I just said. Right. The Lord spoke to Moses and Aaron, saying, when a man shall have a swelling in his body's skin, or a scab on a bright spot, and it becomes in the skin of his body the plague of leprosy, then he shall be brought to Aaron the priest, or to one of his sons, the priests. The priest shall examine the plague in the skin of the body. If the hair in the plague has turned white, and the appearance of the plague is deeper than the body's skin is, It is the plague of leprosy. So the priest shall examine him and pronounce him unclean. Right, it's really good if you find the time to get a book or go online and read about the disease of leprosy and what it is. All right. And just so that you can fully understand what's going on here. Okay. If the bright spot is white in the skin of his body and its appearance isn't deeper than the skin of its hair, and its hair hasn't turned white, then the priest shall isolate the infected person for 7 days. The priest shall examine him on... This is where I need an assistant just to turn my pages. Bear with me, because this is oh, I see what I've just done there. Bear with me, I was looking at a different screen. The priest shall examine him on the 7th day. Behold, if in his eyes the plague is arrested and the plague hasn't spread in the skin, then the priest shall isolate him for 7 more days. The priest shall examine him again on the 7th day. Behold, if the plague has faded and the plague hasn't spread in the skin, then the priest shall pronounce him clean. It is a scab. He shall wash his clothes and be clean. But if the scab spreads on the skin after he has shown himself to the priest for his cleansing, he shall show himself to the priest again. The priest shall examine him, and behold, if the scab has spread on the skin, then the priest shall pronounce him unclean. It is leprosy. When the plague of leprosy is in a man, then he shall be brought to the priest, and the priest shall examine him. Behold, if there is a white swelling on the skin, and it has turned the hair white, and there is raw flesh in the swelling, it is chronic leprosy in the skin of his body. And the priest shall pronounce him unclean. He shall not isolate him, for he is already unclean. If the leprosy breaks out all over the skin, and the leprosy covers all the skin of the infected person from his head even to his feet, as far as it appears to the priest, then the priest shall examine him. Behold, if the leprosy has covered all his flesh, he shall pronounce him clean of the plague. It has all turned white, he is clean. But whenever raw flesh appears in him, he shall be unclean. The priest shall examine the raw flesh and pronounce him unclean. The raw flesh is unclean, it is leprosy, or if it is raw flesh, turns again, it is changed to white, then he shall come to the priest. Let me just go back there. Verse 16. Or if the raw flesh turns again and is changed to white, then he shall come to the priest. The priest shall examine him. Behold, if the plague has turned white, then the priest shall pronounce him clean of the plague. He is clean. So, while this may sound a bit pedantic and maybe kind of confusion when you read it for the first time, because I did trip up there. It's giving specific directions to the priests on what they should do in order to diagnose a man on whether or not he has leprosy. And if that leprosy is at the infectious stage. Okay, so the directions are very specific. Verse 18. When the body has a boil on its skin, and it is healed, and it has healed, in the place of the boil there is a white swelling or a bright spot, reddish white, then it shall be shown to the priest. The priest shall examine it. Behold, if its appearance is deeper than the skin, and its hair has turned white, then a priest shall pronounce him unclean. It is the plague of leprosy. It has broken out in the boil, but if the priest examines it, and behold, there are no white hairs in it, and it isn't deeper than the skin, but is dim, then the priest shall isolate him 7 days. If it spreads in the skin, then the priest shall pronounce him unclean, if it is a plague. But if the bright spot stays in its place and hasn't spread, it is the scar from the boil, and the priest shall pronounce him clean. Or when the body has a burn from fire on its skin, and the raw flesh of the burn becomes a bright spot, reddish white or white, then the priest shall examine it, and behold, if the hair on the bright spot has turned white, and its appearance is deeper than the skin, it is leprosy. It has broken out in the burning, and the priest shall pronounce him unclean. It is the plague of leprosy. But if the priest examines it, and behold, there is no white hair in the bright spot, and it isn't deeper than the skin, but has faded, then the priest shall isolate him 7 days. The priest shall examine him on the 7th day. If it has spread in the skin, then the priest shall pronounce him unclean. It is the plague of leprosy. If the bright spot stays in its place and hasn't spread in the skin but is faded, it is the swelling from the burn, and the priest shall pronounce him clean, for it is the scar from the burn. When a man or woman has a plague on the head or on the beard, then a priest shall examine the plague. And behold, if its appearance is deeper than the skin, and the hair in it is yellow and thin, then the priest shall pronounce him unclean. So there's a pronouncement of being unclean. And then if certain conditions reveal themselves after 7 days, after you've kind of like been incubated for 7 days, then it's like, okay, what does this say? And if these things appear, then he's either clean or he has the plague of leprosy. So it's a bit like a 2-step process. Verse 30. Then the priest shall examine it, and behold, if the hair in the bright spot has turned white, and its appearance is deeper than the skin, it is leprosy. It has broken out in the burning, and the priest shall pronounce him unclean. It is the plague of leprosy. But if the priest examines it, and behold, there is no white hair in the bright spot, and it isn't deeper than the skin but has faded, then the priest shall isolate him 7 days. The priest shall examine him on the 7th day. If it has spread in the skin, then the priest shall pronounce him unclean. It is the plague of leprosy. If the bright spot stays in its place and hasn't spread in the skin but is faded, it is the swelling from the burn, and the priest shall pronounce him clean, for it is the scar from the burn. When a man or woman has a plague on the head or on the beard, then the priest shall examine the plague, and behold, if its appearance is deeper than the skin, and the hair in it is yellow and thin, then the priest shall pronounce him unclean. The first step. It is an itch, it is leprosy of the head or of the beard. If the priest examines the plague of itching, and behold, its appearance isn't deeper than the skin, and there is no black hair in it, then the priest shall isolate the person infected with itching 7 days. On the 7th day, the priest shall examine the plague, and behold, if the itch hasn't spread, and there is no yellow hair in it, and the appearance of the itch isn't deeper than the skin, then he shall be shaved, but he shall not shave the itch. Then the priest shall isolate the one who has the itch 7 more days. On the 7th day, the priest shall examine the itch. That's the second step after the isolation. It's important we understand this. Verse 34. On the 7th day, the priest shall examine the itch, and behold, if the itch hasn't spread in the skin, and its appearance isn't deeper than the skin, then the priest shall pronounce him clean. He shall wash his clothes and be clean, but if the itch spreads in the skin after his cleansing, then the priest shall examine him, and behold, if the itch has spread in the skin, the priest shall not look for the yellow hair, he is unclean. But if in his eyes the itch is arrested, and the black hair has grown in it, then the itch is healed, he is clean. The priest shall pronounce him clean. When a man or a woman has bright spots in the skin of the body, even white bright spots, then the priest shall examine them. Behold, if the bright spots on the skin of their body are dull white, it is a harmless rash. It has broken out in the skin, he is clean. If a man's hair has fallen from his head, he is bald, he is clean. Well, that's good to know, because as you can tell, 41. If his hair has fallen off from the front part of his head, his forehead is bald, he is clean. But if a reddish white plague is in the bald head or the bald forehead, it is leprosy breaking out in his bald head or his bald forehead. Then the priest shall examine him. Behold, if the swelling of the plague is reddish white, it in his bald head or in his bald forehead, like the appearance of leprosy in the skin of the body, he is a leprous man, he is unclean. The priest shall surely pronounce him unclean, his plague is on his head. The leper in whom the plague is shall wear torn clothes, and the hair of his head shall hang loose. He shall cover his upper lip, and shall cry, Unclean, unclean. All the days in which the plague is in him, he shall be unclean. He is unclean, he shall dwell alone, his dwelling shall be outside of the camp. The garment also that the plague of leprosy is in, whether a woolen garment or a linen garment, whether it is in wrap or woof of the linen or of wool, whether in leather or in anything made of leather, if the plague is greenish or reddish in the garment, or in the leather, or the wrap, or in the woof, or in anything made of leather, it is the plague of leprosy, and shall be shown to the priest. The priest shall examine the plague and isolate the plague 7 days. He shall examine the plague on the 7th day. If the plague has spread in the garment, either in the wrap or in the woof or in the skin. Woof is part of the garment, like inside the stitching, just so that we're aware of that point. Verse 51, he shall examine the plague on the 7th day. If the plague has spread in the garment, either in the wrap or in the woof or on the skin, whatever use the skin is used for, the plague is a destructive mildew. It is unclean. He shall burn the garment, whether the warp or the woof, in wool or in linen or anything of leather, in which the plague is, for it is a destructive mildew. It shall be burnt in the fire. If the priest examines it, and behold, the plague hasn't spread in the garment, either in the wrap, in the warp, or in the woof, or in anything of the skin, then the priest shall command that they wash the thing that the plague is in, and he shall isolate it 7 more days. Then the priest shall examine it after the plague is washed, and behold, if the plague hasn't changed its color and the plague hasn't spread, it is unclean. You shall burn it with fire. It is a mildewed spot, whether the bareness is inside or outside. If the priest looks and behold the plague has faded after it is washed, then he shall tear it out of the garment, or out of the skin, or out of the warp, or out of the woof. And if it appears again in the garment, either in the warp or in the woof, or in anything of the skin, it is spreading. You shall burn what the plague is in with fire. The garment, either the warp or the woof, or whatever thing of the skin it is, which you shall wash. If the plague has departed from them, then it shall be washed the 2nd time, and it will be clean. Then is the law of the plague of mildew in a garment of wool or linen, either in the warp or in the woof, or in anything, to pronounce it clean or to pronounce it unclean. Very interesting chapter to take in there. As we can tell, it's a description of the diagnosis of leprosy. And that's quite a number of steps. Just bear with me a second, please. Right, let's walk through. Let's start on chapter 14. That was a very interesting read. Very interesting chapter 13. So let's see what chapter 14 has to offer us. The Lord spoke to Moses, saying, "This shall be the law of the leper in the day of his cleansing. He shall be brought to the priest, and the priest shall go out of the camp. The priest shall examine him. Behold, if the plague of leprosy is healed in the leper, then the priest shall command them to take for him who is to be cleansed 2 living clean birds, cedar wood, scarlet, and hyssop. The priest shall command verse number 5. The priest shall command them to kill one of the birds in an earthen vessel over running water. As for the living bird, he shall take it the cedar wood the scarlet and the hyssop, and shall dip them in the living bird in the blood of the bird that was killed over the running water. He shall sprinkle on him who is to be cleansed from the leprosy 7 times, and shall pronounce him clean, and shall let the living bird go into the open field. He who is to be cleansed shall wash his clothes and shave off all his hair and bathe himself in water, and he shall be clean. After that he shall come into the camp, but shall dwell outside his tent 7 days. It shall be on the 7th day that he shall shave all his hair off his head and his beard and his eyebrows. He shall shave off all his hair. He shall wash his clothes, and he shall bathe his body in water, then he shall be clean. On the 8th day he shall take 2 male lambs without defect, 1 ewe lamb a year old without defect, 3/10 of an ephah of fine flour, of fine flour for a meal offering mixed with oil, and 1 log of oil. Now, why don't we just find out what a log is together? That's why you're so sensitive. A log is a liquid measure of about 300 milliliters, or, for my American audience, 10 ounces. Right. Verse 11. The priest who cleanses him shall set the man who is to be cleansed and those things before the Lord at the door of the tent of meeting. The priest shall take 1 of the male lambs and offer him for a trespass offering with the log of oil, and wave them for a wave offering before the Lord. He shall kill the male lamb in the place where they kill the sin offering, and the burnt offering in the place of the sanctuary, for as the sin offering is the priest's, so is the trespass offering. It is most holy. The priest shall take some of the blood of the trespass offering, and the priest shall put it on the tip of the right ear of him who is to be cleansed, and on the thumb of his right hand, and on his big toe of his right foot. The priest shall take some of the log of oil and pour it into the palm of his own left hand. The priest shall, verse 16, the priest shall dip his right finger into the oil that is in his left hand, and shall sprinkle some of the oil with his finger 7 times before the Lord. The priest shall put some of the rest of the oil that is in his hand on the tip of the right ear of him who is to be cleansed, and on the thumb of his right hand, and on the big toe of his right foot. Upon the blood of the trespass offering. The rest of the oil that is in the priest's hand he shall put on the head of him who is to be cleansed, and the priest shall make atonement for him before the Lord. The priest shall offer the sin offering and make atonement for him who is to be cleansed because of his uncleanness. Afterward he shall kill the burnt offering. Then the priest shall offer the burnt offering and the meal offering on the altar. The priest shall make atonement for him, and he shall be clean. If he is poor and can't afford so much, then he shall take one male lamb for a trespass offering to be waved to make atonement for him, and 1/10 of an ephah of flour mixed with oil for a meal offering, and a log of oil, and 2 turtle doves or 2 young pigeons, such as he is able to afford, and the one shall be a sin offering and the other a burnt offering. On the 8th day he shall bring them for his cleansing to the priest, to the door of the tent of the meeting. Before the Lord, the priest shall take the lamb of the trespass offering and the log of oil, and the priest shall wave them for a wave offering. Before the Lord, he shall kill the lamb of the trespass offering. The priest shall take some of the blood of the trespass offering and put it on the tip of the right ear of him who is to be cleansed, and on the thumb of his right hand, and on the big toe of his right foot. The priest shall also pour some of the oil into the palm of his own left hand, and the priest shall sprinkle with his right finger some of the oil that is in his left hand 7 times before the Lord. Then the priest shall put some of the oil that is in his hand on the tip of the right ear of him who is to be cleansed, and on the thumb of his right hand, and on the big toe of his right foot, on the place of the blood of the trespass offering. The rest of the oil that is in the priest's hand, he shall put on the head of him who is to be cleansed, to make atonement for him before the Lord. He shall offer one of the turtle doves or of the young pigeons, whichever he is able to afford, of the kind he is able to afford, the one for a sin offering and the other for a burnt offering. With the meal offering, the priest shall make an atonement for him who is to be cleansed before the Lord. This is the law for him in whom is the plague of leprosy, who is not able to afford a sacrifice for his cleansing. The Lord spoke to Moses and to Aaron, saying, when you have come into the land of Canaan, which I give you for a possession, and I put a spreading mildew in a house in the land of your possession, then he who owns the house shall come and tell the priest, saying, there seems to me to be some sort of plague in the house. The priest shall command that they empty the house before the priest goes in to examine the plague, that all that is in the house be made unclean. Afterward, the priest shall go in to inspect the house. He shall examine the plague, and behold, if the plague is in the walls of the house with hollow streaks, greenish or reddish, and it appears to be deeper than the wall, then the priest shall go out of the house to the door of the house and shut up the house for 7 days. The priest shall come again on the 7th day and look. If the plague has spread in the walls of the house, then the priest shall command that they take out the stones in which is the plague and cast them into an unclean place outside of the city. He shall cause the inside of the house to be scraped all over. They shall pour out the mortar that they have scraped off outside of the city into an unclean place. They shall take other stones and put them in the place of those stones, and he shall take other mortar and shall plaster the house. If the plague comes again and breaks out in the house after he has taken out the stones, and after he has scraped the house, and after it was plastered, then the priest shall come in and look, and behold, if the plague has spread in the house, it is a destructive mildew in the house. It is unclean. He shall break down the house in its stones and its timber, and all the house's mortar. He shall carry them out of the city into an unclean place. Moreover, he who goes into the house while it is shut up shall be unclean until the evening. He who lies down in the house shall wash his clothes, and he who eats in the house shall wash his clothes. If the priest shall come in and examine it, and behold, the plague hasn't spread in the house after the house was plastered, then the priest shall pronounce the house clean, because the plague is healed. To cleanse the house, he shall take two birds, cedar wood, scarlet, and hyssop. He shall kill one of the birds in an earthen vessel over running water. He shall take the cedar wood, the hyssop, the scarlet, and the living bird, and dip them in the blood of the slain bird. And in the running water, and sprinkle the house 7 times. He shall cleanse the house with the blood of the bird, and with the running water, with the living bird, with the cedar wood, with the hyssop, and with the scarlet. But he shall let the living bird go out of the city into the open field, so shall he make atonement for the house, and it shall be clean. This is the law for any plague of leprosy, and for an itch, and for the destructive mildew of a garment, and for a house, and for a swelling, and for a scab, and for a bright spot, to teach when it is unclean and when it is clean. This is the law of leprosy. Well, not much for me to say there, to be totally honest. We've been told how leprosy can be diagnosed, and then we've been told how it can be cleansed. So that's all very clear and very interesting. And it will be more interesting when you read up about leprosy yourself, or what it can do. It's not such a major disease now as it was, but still quite debilitating and still has quite a lot of stigma attached to it, despite the fact that they've now changed the name of the disease from leprosy to Hansen's disease. That's just to remove the stigma that, people have been grown to understand what leprosy means, because even for someone like me who hasn't knowingly met somebody who was, and it's the same word, a leper, the name itself kind of like, you wonder, who has leprosy? How did they get that? What is going on here? So, but yeah, it does. It's interesting to understand these things. So, just checking what was going on there in the chat. Just to say, if there's anything that you want to ask, pull it in chat. And rather than go over them while doing the reading, we just wait till the end and we can talk about it. Okay? So, chapter 15 of Leviticus. We're just kind of... Oh my gosh, we've gone over an hour. We're just kind of storming through this, I thought. But these are quite long chapters. These are quite long chapters. And like I said, they can't be rushed. And the intention was to go through 14, 15, 13, 14, 15, and 16. So let's just go through it and see how it goes. There's a lot to learn. There's a lot to educate ourselves on. The Lord spoke to Moses and Aaron, saying, "Speak to the children of Israel and tell them, when any man has a discharge from his body, because of his discharge he is unclean. This shall be his uncleanness in his discharge. Whether his body runs with his discharge, or his body has stopped from his discharge, it is his uncleanness. Every bed on which he has the discharge lies, shall be unclean, and everything he sits on shall be unclean. Whoever touches his bed shall wash his clothes and bath himself in water and be unclean until the evening. He who sits on anything which the man who has the discharge sat shall wash his clothes and bath himself in water and shall be unclean until the evening. He who touches the body of him who has the discharge shall wash his clothes and bath himself in water and be unclean until the evening. If he who has the discharge spits on him who is clean, then he shall wash his clothes and bath himself in water and be unclean until the evening. Whatever saddle he has the discharge rides on shall be unclean. Whoever touches anything that was under him shall be unclean until the evening. He who carries those things shall wash his clothes and bath himself in water. Whomever he who has the discharge touches without having rinsed his hands in water, he shall wash his clothes and bath himself in water and be unclean until the evening. The earthen vessel which he who has the discharge touches shall be broken, and every vessel of wood shall be rinsed in water. When he who has a discharge is cleansed of his discharge, then he shall count to himself 7 days for his cleansing, and wash his clothes, and he shall bath his flesh in running water, and shall be clean. On the 8th day he shall take 2 turtle doves, 2 young pigeons, and come before the Lord to the door of the tent of meeting, and give them to the priest. The priest shall offer them, the one for the sin offering and the other for the burnt offering. The priest shall make atonement for him before the Lord for his discharge. If any man has an emission of semen, then he shall bath all his flesh in water and be unclean until the evening. That's interesting. How do you get an emission of semen? We all know how that comes about, don't we? So what are we being told here? Now, this is the first time that I've noticed this. Verse number 16. If any man has an emission of semen, then he shall bath all his flesh in water and be unclean until the evening. That in itself is a general discussion that we can have for like an hour or 30 minutes. Basically, from what I can tell, we're being told that, I don't want to say these words and the video gets taken down, or somebody starts, being offended or whatever. But we know how you have an emission of semen, don't we? So what we're being told basically is that is uncleanness. The act of that is unclean. And you're unclean for the rest of the day until the evening. That's just it. Because I've said this in previous streams, and I say it again, don't add or subtract to what the Lord has told us. Yeah, because we get doctors telling us various things, various psychologists and various health practitioners and various other people who say they have advice to give us. But the Lord who created us in his image is telling us, if any man has an emission of semen, he shall remain unclean. Okay? And bath. And you be unclean until the evening. So that's it, basically. So, if one is emitting semen consciously, stop it. That's what we're being told. Okay? It might be because we have to train our minds to go from one extreme and get ourselves out of that extreme and move in to the right side, move in to the light. Because if you don't try it, you won't know. Especially when we've been programmed or when we've been told that, hey, there's nothing wrong with this. This is normal. It's part of growing up. But it's not. And it can be stopped and it can be tamed. So you need to work towards that. Verse 17. What I do is I'm going to write this down after I've read the first 5 books, it'd be an interesting video reading that I would do. I think it's going to be great. And probably come across other references by that time. Okay, verse 17. Every garment and every skin, which the semen is on, shall be washed with water, and be unclean until the evening. If a man lies with a woman and there is an emission of semen, they both shall bathe themselves in water and be unclean until the evening. If a woman has a discharge and her discharge in her flesh is blood, she shall be in her impurity 7 days. Whoever touches her shall be unclean until the evening. Everything that she lies on in her impurity shall be unclean. Everything that she sits on shall be unclean. Whoever touches her bed shall wash his clothes and bath himself in water and be unclean until the evening. Whoever touches, verse 22, whoever touches anything that she sits on shall wash his clothes and bath himself in water and be unclean until the evening. If it is on the bed or on anything she sits on, when he touches it, he shall be unclean until the evening. If any man lies with her and her monthly flow is on him, he shall be unclean 7 days, and every bed he lies on shall be unclean. If a woman has a discharge of her blood many days, not in the time of her period, or if she has a discharge beyond the time of her period, all the days of the discharge of her uncleanness shall be as in the days of her period. She is unclean. Every bed she lies on, all the days of her discharge shall be to her as the bed of her period. Everything she sits on shall be unclean on the uncleanness of her period. Whoever touches these things shall be unclean and shall wash his clothes and bath himself in water and be unclean until the evening. But if she is cleansed of her discharge, then she shall count to herself 7 days, and after that she shall be clean. On the 8th day she shall take 2 turtle doves or 2 young pigeons and bring them to the priest to the door of the tent of meeting. The priest shall offer the one for a sin offering and the other for a burnt offering. And the priest shall make atonement for her before the Lord. For the uncleanness of her discharge, thus you shall separate the children of Israel from their uncleanness, so they will not die in their uncleanness when they defile my tabernacle that is amongst them. This is the law of him who has a discharge, and of him who has an emission of semen, so that he is unclean by it, and of her who has her period, and of a man or a woman who has a discharge, and of him who lies with her who is unclean. And the final chapter for today, chapter 16. The Lord spoke after the death of 2 of the sons of Aaron when they came near before the Lord and died. And the Lord said to Moses, "Tell Aaron your brother not to come at just any time into the most holy place within the veil before the mercy seat which is on the ark, lest he die, for I will appear in the cloud on the mercy seat. Aaron shall come into the sanctuary with a young bull for a sin offering, a ram for a burnt offering. He shall put on the holy linen tunic. He shall have the linen trousers on his body, and shall put on the linen sash, and he shall be clothed with the linen turban. They are the holy garments. He shall bath his body, some say bathe. I hear ya. In water and put them on. He shall take from the congregation of the children of Israel 2 male goats for a sin offering, and 1 ram for a burnt offering. Aaron shall offer the bull of the sin offering, which is for himself, and make atonement for himself and for his house. He shall take the 2 goats and set them before the Lord, and at the door of the tent of meeting, Aaron shall cast lots for the 2 goats, 1 lot for the Lord and the other lot for the scapegoat. Aaron shall present the goat on which the lot fell for the Lord, and offer him for a sin offering. But the goat on which the lot fell for the scapegoat shall be presented alive before the Lord, to make atonement for him, to send him away as a scapegoat into the wilderness. Aaron shall present the bull of the sin offering, which is for himself, and shall make atonement for himself and for his house, and shall kill the bull of the sin offering, which is for himself. He shall take a censer full of coals of fire off the altar before the Lord, and 2 handfuls of sweet incense beaten, and bring it within the veil. He shall put the incense on the fire before the Lord, that the cloud of the incense may cover the mercy seat that is on the covenant, so that he will not die. He shall take some of the blood of the bull and sprinkle it with his finger on the mercy seat on the east, and before the mercy seat he shall sprinkle some of the blood with his finger 7 times. Then he shall kill the goat of the sin offering that is for the people, and bring his blood within the veil, and do with his blood as he did with the blood of the bull, and sprinkle it on the mercy seat and before the mercy seat. He shall make atonement for the holy place because of the uncleanness of the children of Israel, and because of their transgressions, even all their sins. So he shall do for the tent of the meeting that dwells with them in the middle of their uncleanness. No one shall be in the tent of meeting when he enters to make atonement in the holy place, until he comes out, and has made atonement for himself and for his household, and for the assembly of Israel. He shall go out to the altar that is before the Lord, and make atonement for it, and shall take some of the bull's blood and some of the goat's blood, and put it around on the horns of the altar. He shall sprinkle some of the blood on it with his finger 7 times, and cleanse it and make it holy from the uncleanness of the children of Israel. When he has finished atoning for the holy place, the tent of meeting, and the altar, he shall present the live goat. Aaron shall lay both his hands on the head of the live goat, and confess over him all the iniquities of the children of Israel, and all their transgressions, even all their sins, and he shall put them on the head of the goat, and shall send him away into the wilderness by the hand of the man who is ready. The goat shall carry all their iniquities on himself to a solitary land, and he shall release the goat in the wilderness. Aaron shall come into the tent of meeting and shall take off his linen garments, and he shall take off the linen garments which he put on when he went into the holy place, and shall leave them there. Then he shall bath himself in water in a holy place. Then he shall bathe himself in water in a holy place, put on his garments, and come out and offer his burnt offering and the burnt offering of the people, and make atonement for himself and for the people. The fat of the sin offering he shall burn on the altar. He who lets the goat go as a scapegoat shall wash his clothes and bathe in his flesh in water. And afterward he shall come into the camp, the bull offering for the sin offering, and a goat for the sin offering, whose blood was brought to make atonement in the holy place, shall be carried outside the camp, and they shall burn their skins, their flesh, and their dung with fire. He who burns them shall wash his clothes and bathe his flesh in water, and afterward he shall come into the camp. It shall be a statute to you forever. In the 7th month, on the 10th day of the month, you shall afflict your souls and shall do no kind of work, whether native born or stranger, who lives as a foreigner amongst you. For on this day shall atonement be made for you to cleanse you. You shall be clean from all your sins before the Lord. It is a Sabbath of Solomon, rest to you, and you shall afflict your souls. It is a statute forever. The priest who is anointed and who is consecrated to be priest in his father's place shall make atonement and shall put on the linen garments, even the holy garments. Then he shall make atonement for the holy sanctuary, and he shall make atonement for the tent of meeting and for the altar, and he shall make atonement for the priest and for all the people of the assembly. This shall be an everlasting statute for you, to make an atonement for the children of Israel once in the year because of all their sins. It was done as the Lord commanded Moses. So not only, as we have read previously, was there atonement for individual sins, but there was also atonement for the whole nation of Israel. Everybody, even the strangers that live amongst them. So these were the things that I actually, because my objective was to try to understand what happened to the Israelites. Why did they go against the Lord's commandments? Why were they cavorting with their neighbors when the Lord said that they shouldn't? Why did they forget about all of the ceremonies that the Lord said that they should observe? Why did they move into darkness? Because as we can see here, the Lord has provided them an avenue where they could receive atonement for the sins that they committed once a year for the whole nation and for the individuals as these things took place in their own personal lives. And the provision were made for people if you were poor as well. So everybody had access to the same atonement, to the same forgiveness, to the same, what's the word? To the same justice that the Lord provided them. So it's, for me, this is really interesting. It's really good to know how forgiving the Lord is and how he's provided all these things that for the Israelites that they could do to become a holy nation and a holy people and to remain a holy nation and a holy people. So it just goes to show, you know, the power of Satan, the power of the dark side, the power of deception and the power of lust, money, and look at these two things: lust, money, and the attainment of power, the attainment of position, the attainment of worldly things that you think, oh my word, look at the size of this, and I'm this, and I've been appointed to this, and I could look forward to this. These are just earthly and manly things, isn't it? We try to, the objective should be to enter into the presence of the Lord and to maintain ourselves in that presence. Because without you trying, without you knowing, you will never learn, you will never change. It's difficult because one can always be thinking about the other things that they have been presented with. And these things don't stop with age. You know, from the day that you're born, there are things that you would desire. You won't remember, but you know, it's there. Observe little children. Observe your own children that you're bringing up. Observe your relatives, your nephews, your nieces. Observe your friends' children. Watch them grow. You remember when you were their age and you become a toddler, a preteen, a teenager, an adult, a young adult, and then an adult, and you enter your 20s, your 30s, your 40s, your 50s. And if you've noticed in your own life, let's say you reach a certain age and you've known somebody all their life, one of your peers, or you've watched a child grow from a baby into an adult, what changes do you notice in them? Have there been any? You know, people tend to remain the same, don't they? You know. So I found that really interesting. Very, I'm happy that I read it. I hope you feel the same way. If there's any questions, let's see what we've got here. Okay, it's early in the morning. That's cool. Really happy to have read this to you today. It gives me so much joy. And as I said earlier on, this is the earliest that I've woken up to do. Earliest in daylight. All right. Because there have been times when I've done a live stream and it's gone into the following day. But that's been like early on in the morning. But, you know, 8 a.m. That's for me an achievement. And I really do hope that on the days that I can, this isn't a working day for me today. And it was a blessing for me to be in a position to read Leviticus 13 to 16 to you. And I will continue either this evening or possibly tomorrow or on Sunday when I'll read chapter 17 to 20. I'd like to thank you for joining me today on today's live stream. And I really, as I just said, look forward to speaking to you again soon, which will be Saturday or Sunday. Take care now and enjoy the rest of your day. Bye bye.